For a limited time, the NLA has dropped all of the 2x balls from the multi-X draw. This means that you, our valuable players, have greater chances of multiplying your winnings up to 5 times more in our 2x drop promotion. Yay! And that's not all. As an additional bonus, there will be fewer free play or FP balls to draw from too. Now you have more reasons to add multi-X to your playway bets. So, value your dreams, win your way, and multiply your winnings up to 5 times more in the NLA's 2x Dropped promotion. Promo runs until Friday, 20th October, 2023. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
The Caribbean island of Grenada, a paradise for tourists, but now the center of the world's latest coup d'etat. It happened on March the 13th, when a revolutionary party overthrew the government of Prime Minister Sir Eric Gairy. It all began at 6 o'clock in the morning, when a solitary barracks guard was lured away by a young woman who sympathized with the opposition party. Groups of men moved in, seized the armory, and took the sleeping soldiers by surprise. The raiding party donned army uniforms and moved onto the radio station. The guards were quickly overpowered, and the first bulletin from the People's Revolutionary Government was broadcast. The coup, which only took a few hours, was carried out by the New Jewel movement. Its members are mostly young, left-wing lawyers and intellectuals. The group formed 7 years ago and quickly won widespread public support to challenge Sir Eric Gairy's Grenada United Labour Party. Their leader is a 34-year-old London-trained barrister, Maurice, now Grenada's self-imposed Prime Minister. He told the press what made him strike when he did.
We had received information on the Saturday before the Tuesday that the intention of the government was to search us and detain us. We decided to go underground. While we were underground, more information came to us on the Monday morning that the plan was that Gairy was going to flee the country, leaving orders to have our leadership killed. We therefore, around 3 o'clock, summoned a council, a meeting of our top cadres, and there and then the decision was taken that we should move rather than wait to be killed.
The seeds of Grenada's current problems were sown 5 years ago. In 1974, after 200 years of British rule, the island gained its independence and raised its own flag for the first time. But the Grenadians themselves had doubts about what exactly they were celebrating, for the island had stumbled into independence in the middle of a general strike. Britain too had her doubts and alerted a warship to stand by to evacuate foreigners in case of violence. But Eric Gairy had got what he wanted and happily danced the night away in the company of his supporters. Gairy had an unshakable belief in his own leadership and authority. But for the people of Grenada, the strikes, riots and street demonstrations that had disfigured the island from the end of 1973 were an inauspicious prologue to full independence. The port had been shut for a month, so food and fuel were scarce. Essential services were paralyzed. Shops had closed down because of rioting and heavy looting. Demonstrations were a daily event, as hundreds of Grenadians called for the resignation of the government.
Welcome to Ride Along Live, and it's a day in history, and as we do every year for the past 5 years or so, we're going to take another look back into the significance of today in the history of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Yes, it was today, October 19, 1983, that Maurice Bishop, together with his list of other cabinet officials, was lined up on the fort and shot. Today, to put all of this, help me put all of this thing into perspective, is Michael Batiste. Two Michaels. We're graced with two Michaels today. Michael Batiste and Michael Roberts. And we'd like to welcome these two gentlemen. I say they play a very significant part of the history. They are historians. So I'm always happy to have them on where we could learn a lot from their experience, because they was there in a large part. This man was there, and they could give us some historical recollection of it. So Mr. Michael Roberts and Mr. Michael Batiste, welcome to Ride Along Live, my friends. How are you guys doing today?
Well, I'm good. Let me hasten to say a quick hi to my fellow karaoke partner, Mike. Mike, I have not been seen. Well, I guess you have not been seeing me because I have not been visiting the karaoke spots lately. How are you doing? How is your new any new song?
I'm fine.
Have you been singing any new songs, Mike?
Well, I'm looking at my repertoire for the rest of the year, so I'm gonna try something. You know how that goes.
I know how it goes. Yes, man. Yes, man.
Michael Roberts, again, thanks for accepting our invitation and welcome to this very important historical program that we have host every year on this platform. It's very important that I think that we talk about these things. So let's talk about the significance of today. But we can't start up and talk about the significance of today if we don't go back a little bit in history. So let's start. I don't know how far back we need to go. I know folks might say we need to go back to T.A. Murray show, but I think we should start. We have an hour. I think we should start on the recollection of the GULP and the significance that Eric Matthew Gary played in the time that he was there as Prime Minister of Grenada. Let's talk about Eric Matthew Gary. I think Mr. Michael Batiste would have a lot of knowledge on Sir Eric Matthew Gary, because you also was a part, later became a part of the GULP party. So tell us about the significance of Eric Matthew Gary.
Well, to start off, to talk about Sir Eric Gary, Uncle, as he's popularly called then, we have to go back to his days as a union leader. Because first, he came on the scene not as a politician, but as a union leader. Of course, in 1951, he came in, he heard the cry for people crying out for social and economic justice. He invited himself, and of course, that struggle began. He started the 1951 revolution, and sometimes I say Grenada only revolution. Of course, I and Mike disagree on that. And I say it's the only revolution because at that time, the revolution was not to change regime, because that was not possible to remove the British government, to change from a colony to an independent state. So he started fighting for social and economic justice, and he was successful in that regard because, of course, he had the estate workers and the people working on doing manual labor. He rallied them, got better wages, and so on, and he became the working man's champion. He then formed the GULP in 1955. They swept then into the Legislative Council, and shortly thereafter, he got into the Legislative Council, and he started off his career as a politician. Of course, we would appreciate and recognize that one of the most important piece of legislation that was passed from 1958 up to today is that Pension and Gratuity Act, that 1958 Pension and Gratuity Act of 1958, which is so relevant today. I mean, even after the demise of the GOLP and the overthrowing of the government in '79, we continue to toil and dangle over this 1958 Act, that significant piece of legislation that was introduced in the Legislative Council. And of course, when Grenada became independent in '74, it was carried on and placed as a constitutional provision. And we could look at also his activities leading up to 1974, with the plantocrats and organizing the GMMIWU, which became the organ, and the mother of the GOLP, and then starting off in the political arena, where he challenged the British, eventually taking the country into independence in 1974 against a lot of unrest and so on. Along the way, there was stumbling. There was talk of some some brutality on the part of his overzealous supporters, and of course, we saw that sort of brought in a head-on collision with the young Maurice Bishop and his group that came fresh from England and burst into the political scene. And there were conflicts then between the GOLP and Maurice Bishop followers.
Yeah.
Which,
Robert, during that time, the emergence, the presence of the GULP, where were you? What was your association? How were you a part of the political arena during that time?
Well, I'm an old GBSS boy, and of course, GBSS back in those days, when Prime Minister Maurice Bishop, former Prime Minister Maurice Bishop, returned to Grenada, was a very, I wouldn't say revolutionary school, but it was an activist school across the student movement in Grenada. So that was my start. I started literally in school, went on to work with the former Prime Minister in his threatening political party movement of the MAPP, Movement Assembly of People's Power. That was a St. George's based party. But I want to go back to address a little bit of what Mike said about Eric Gary. And let us be very clear here. Eric Gary is a central figure in Grenada history, whether you like him or hate him, whether he did well or not so well, is a matter for debate and sometimes a matter for opinion.
Right.
The outcomes perhaps were not what we expected many times. There was a lot of, it was a period, it was a very violent period, a very tough period in Grenada history as a young Caribbean nation tried to get its footings. The rise of Eric Gary as a titan of Grenada politics is directly corresponding and correspondent to the rise of Maurice Bishop. They are the two titans of Grenada political history. So let us put this out there on what it is. Now, it's October 19th, and I don't really want to go back over the history, the name, the finger pointing. However, let me say this very clearly. The events that led up to the October 19th was spawned by internal contradictions within the party. Those were party issues. I like to characterize, in hindsight, as I'm older now, the New Jewel movement as an immature, young Marxist, Leninist political party. We were very immature, and and history has borne that out as one of the contributing factors to the demise of the revolution. The revolution, in and of itself, was successful up to that point. And I have no fear of saying that as part of the process. We can go over the long laundry list of things that happened during the revolution. As a matter of fact, people like Tim Hector, that's a name you may not hear, you know, me and Mike might know who we're talking about, who was one of the strongest political leaders to come out of Antigua, D.K. Duncan and a whole others they in hindsight, in analyzing the revolution, said that it was one of the most progressive and effective political parties to come out for the last 29 years, up to the time of its demise. So there is a lot to criticize the Grenada Revolution for. The activities of October 19 is in fact a black spot and a blot, like a blot of ink on Grenada's history. And we have to confront, objectively analyze, and be candid in terms of how we look at that situation and how it unfolded. No matter what we talk, no matter what we say, that was contributing factors that led up to that. That was, in fact, the significant blow, the death knell of the Grenada Revolution, with the summary execution of Prime Minister Bishop and some members of his cabinet.
I know we had the execution up to October 19, but I want to go back a little bit to the overthrow of the GULP and the revolution that brought in the wave of the new prime minister and his league and his colleagues. We had a list of folks. But I want to talk about that day, the overthrow. How was it planned? What was the idea in the overthrow of the then GULP? Michael, and why?
Well, there were a number of things. Let me just get my how is it called? My charger, because I'm going to
while you do that, let's get Baptiste on that.
Yes. No problem.
Well, first of all, let me say that the 1979 was a coup d'etat. And you know, we play with the words all the time. On March 12th, 1979, 11:59, Maurice Bishop then was the Honorable Maurice Bishop. He was a member of parliament for the constituency of St. George's Southeast. So he was part of the Westminster parliamentary style democracy that Grenada had. And as he said earlier in the interview, they got information that there were threats on their lives and they was about to move in on them, and therefore they acted speedily to overthrow the government. So that in itself does not constitute a revolution. It merely means that a group of men who were actively participating in the Westminster-style democracy, there were elections, they contested elections, they lost, and did not actually accepted the results of the election, because one of the reasons they were putting forward is that the elections were rigged and they did not have a chance, and therefore the only means of getting Eric Gary out of power was through an overthrow. So
yes, hold on, stick a pin right there, because I want to take it chronologically. Michael, why wasn't the results of the election accepted?
The election of 1976.
Yes.
That was accepted. It was accepted. Maurice Bishop was once, after 76, leader of the opposition, you know. Now let me address two things that Mike said. There is this narrative, this revisionist narrative, that what happened on the 13th of March 1979 was not a revolution, and in fact was a coup. All revolutions start from that. The American Revolution was not a revolution that started as a full-blown revolution, but started as the action of a small group of people. That's the historical nature of revolutions. There are different types of revolution. People tend to believe that only guns and other things like that is a revolution. And revolutions go through different processes. Grenada had a people's revolution. The trigger for it, the catalyst for it was the New Julian movement and the armed attack against the military regime, the military apparatus within Grenada. Now, the revolution imploded from within. Had it survived, it would have gone on to another stage, a popular people's revolution. So the tendency to look at revolutions as an end, okay, you overthrow a government, you're in government, and that's the end of it. That is an erroneous concept. The trigger, as I said, was the New Jewel movement, but that did not mean that that's a coup d'etat. A coup d'etat is an activity that takes place within a ruling party, a ruling government, to change the balance of power within the government. That's a coup d'etat. That's a classic example of it. What happened on March 13, 1979 was not something that happened inside of the Grenada of the Guerrilla regime. So it could not have been a coup d'etat. A coup
What
d'etat
does it make if we call it a coup d'etat or a revolution? It was the same thing. You overthrow of government.
Yes.
And it was not by the ballot. It was
Well,
by the
Mike, let me interject a little bit. The overthrowing of a government is by no means a coup d'etat. I mean, a revolution.
Of course.
If a low rank army officer, and it happened all the time in Central America and in West Africa, Central Africa, an army officer would overthrow a government. Do you classify that as a revolution? A revolution is one where the masses rebel against a system. A coup d'etat is when a group of men, armed men, or the military stage armed rebellion against the establishment. Maurice Bishop. Okay, Maurice Bishop was by no means a revolutionary. Maurice Bishop was a member of parliament on March 12, 1979. He was Honorable Maurice Bishop representing the constituency of St. George Southeast. And on a few hours later, based on information that they picked up, whether true or whatever, they armed themselves and overthrow a ragtag army. This is not what a revolution like what Fidel Castro started, Che Guevara started, even Allende, or these folks who were out in the battlefield with the masses crying out for change. And don't forget, the government was popularly elected, and elected in 72, elected again in 76, and election were just around the corner. So basically, one may say it was an overzealous, power-hungry young group of intellectuals who were representing the upper class, felt that the only way they can wrestle power from the government and the grassroots people was through violent means, and that's exactly what happened. So you see, our history is always distorted because we have not really categorized what happened in 79. In 1951, clearly we could see it was a revolution, and as a result of that, thousands of people came out. There were national standstill. Workers lost their lives in Latin Junction, battling not Grenadian forces, but the British regiment at the time. And of course, their lives have gone unnoticed and without much recognition, because we talk about the martyrs of 79, but we're forgetting that the only genuine revolution Grenada had seen was in 1951 uprising, where the masses came out, and in 1951 it was a social and economic revolution that was successful. It was not a regime change. So unlike 79, yeah.
Mike, I understand where you're going with this, but here is where you missed the boat. The Gary struggle of 1951 was an anti-colonial struggle. That is correct. Gary was the paramount, the leader of that struggle. What happened in 1951 started as a general strike. But it was not a revolution. It didn't change anything. The 1979 revolution, to the contrary, was changed a lot of the structure of Grenada. It used the power of the people who came out and supported the revolution in large numbers against, and as you're correct in saying, as a sitting government, Eric Gary. Remember, the lead up to the revolution, the Duffers Commission on the events that took place in Grenada, and a whole range of missteps and brutality at the hands of the Gary regime is what spawned it. If it was not a revolution and just a coup d'etat, and people overthrew a ragtag army, as you see, why did it survive for 4.5 years and it self-imploded when it was immensely popular? Today, as we speak, the two most popular prime ministers ever to pass through Grenada is Eric Gary and Maurice Bishop. Why is it that is on historical record as what it is? No, I'm not saying that in 1951, Gary did not advocate for change. History will prove that he did. We have no question on that. In 1979, we sought to change Grenada by different means because of the situation in the country at the time. The 79 revolution could never have happened if you did not have a vanguard party, a party of the new type. In short, the other right-wing center-right parties and others in Grenada that were there, GNP and others, couldn't enact a revolution because the people would not have supported them. The only reason why you had a revolution is because you had the support of a new type of party. You had the masses rallying behind the person of a Maurice Bishop. So all those conditions were necessary to have a revolution. In 1951, those conditions weren't there, even though Gary was himself was a revolutionary in terms of thinking. The conditions to form a revolution in Grenada in 51 were not there, and that cannot be characterized as a full-blown Grenada revolution.
Mike, let me hastily disagree with you for a minute.
Let me just say this real quick, and we'll come back to you, Batiste. Guys, you're watching Right Along Live, and this is a real historical look at the significance of today. We're looking at the time frame right now with Eric Matthew Gary, the first Prime Minister of Grenada, and the overthrow of Eric Matthew Gary. And we're going to speak about the significance of October 19th in a little bit. So guys, stick and stay. It's very, very important, especially for the young ones, because a lot of this literature, a lot of this information is not taught in schools, right? So it's your opportunity to be engaged with this conversation. Also participate in the conversation. If you want to call in at any time, we put a number up on the screen. You guys could call in to be a part of this conversation right here. Batiste, go ahead.
Mike, let me disagree with you here. You said nothing changed, and of course, I brutally disagree with that. A lot of change. In 1951, slavery, it was a continuation of slavery in Grenada. Number one, Grenadians owned no lands. They were working for peanuts, in some cases, less than 6 shillings a day or 6 pence a day. They live in real poverty. They had no representation in terms of negotiating better wages. As a result of the 1951 revolution, we saw the rise of the trade union movement, the GMMIWU, and we saw now collective bargaining arrangements started as a result of the workers standing up and fighting for their rights. That's number one. Number two, Grenadians and Grenada have the most landowners in the Western Hemisphere. And I will qualify that.
You mean per capita?
Per capita.
Okay.
All of this came about as a result of the 51 revolution, because through that revolution we had land for the landless, whereby lands were taken away from massa and given to the very said people that was enslaved. Women were now entitled to maternity leave when they had babies. They were not forced to go back on the estate and raise the cocoa basket 2-3 days after giving birth. Better conditions were laid out for the workers. And as the old slang said, and sometimes we scoff at such a historical statement, the women proudly proclaim that it was the 1951 revolution that made them wear panties. Now we laugh at that. And we ask, why so? And it was so because prior to that 1951 revolution, they used the flour bags when the shopkeepers, the merchants, sold the flour from the flour bag, which came in a cotton form at that time. They sold the cotton to the workers. They went in the river stone with a corn stick and they bleach and they scrub it out and they made what they call the 4-string sliders and drawers, I may say. It was after the 1951 revolution when they say in that song, at the ending of the strike, the price shall rise. You have to underline those historical phrases and analyze them and understand what it means. It meant then that after the strike, the price of labor went up. They got more monies. So now they can go and shop in the same place that massa wife used to shop. So instead of the 4-string, they were able to buy panties now. And hence the reason where that slogan came from. It is the revolution that made them wear panties. It's a historical phrase, and we must keep that in concept, and it have to be introduced in the history books of Grenada for us to understand where we came from. Then came
that, and it's important, and that's why it's important that we have this kind of conversation and understanding. But I want to jump ahead a bit, guys, because we have an hour, but there's a lot to talk about. I want to talk about the popularity of Eric Gary, right, at the time of that era before the revolution. Michael, you are a part. Vincent. Michael. I gotta put a tag on you guys' name.
You have 2 mics and no singers, boy.
You have a short mic and you have a tall mic.
Hey.
Robert. Mike, you know, he's having the same problem the guy in the karaoke does have when he say Michael.
Yes. Which one you mean?
What the call when it said that the Gary regime was putting out a call to execute or assassinate or the Maurice Bishop and his league of members in the party, was that founded in facts, or was it just something that was spread as a fear factor?
Propaganda. Propaganda. Among the many propaganda that they displayed at the time to destabilize Eric Gary. And I will tell you another one. Hold on.
Roberts, was it factual for you guys?
Yes,
was it true?
Yes, it was. There was no issue. There's some people. There's some police officers who died. Fitzroy Bidu being one of them. Who literally told us that was one of the problems.
So you did get intelligence.
Oh yeah.
That the then prime minister was going to assassinate the whole group, the whole team.
That he had gone to the United States and that he left instructions that the NGM, the leadership of the NGM, should move on. It should be eliminated.
So to avoid what you guys saw as an imminent reality, you moved in. Michael, Robert, Batiste, you saying that was not rooted in facts.
Well,
it was propaganda.
Listen to me. This guy was specialized in propaganda and misinformation. I mean, don't forget, the Allies was East Germany, Russia, Bulgaria, and these places at the time where they had sent some people to study political history. Now, if we go back to some of the lies that were told, number one, they claimed that after the overthrow, they found no money in the Provident Fund, that Uncle Gary squandered away all the money. Later on, it was discovered that $4 million were found in the Provident Fund, and that they used that Provident Fund money to start the NIS. And those are facts, because it's recorded today in the charter of the NIS how it started. Because when Bishop overthrew the government, there was something called the Provident Fund. That was a fund where road workers, estate workers paid into, and it accumulated a lot of money, $4 million. So they found that $4 million, but initially what they said they found no monies. At the end of it all, they admitted that yes, they were lying, that was not so. They came up with all kind of photographs and all of that in compromising positions with Uncle and whatnot. Well, let's face it.
Said that Uncle was into Ethiopia after they sought his home.
Well, Junior,
Mike,
Obia is part of our culture. We had at one time a Baptist religion, and even Catholicism and Obia sometimes with the smoking and all of that. One could associate them. That is something that part of our culture, whether it's in Guyana, whether it's in Trinidad, Grenada, no exception. So the Obia thing here is just a myth, and it's a question of what people believe at the time. And at that time, science and technology was not that prevalent. So people believe in all sorts of things. But notwithstanding the fact, there were lots of things that happened under the GLP that was not pleasant at all, which of course today we all condemn. The idea of a Mongoose gang where people were beating up people for no reason just because they opposed the government, that in itself was uncalled for. But let's face it, when Bishop came in with his gang, he matched it up with his PRA. And what they were doing, they were going into people's homes and plucking them out in the middle of the night and sending them in Richmond Hill without a trial, without knowing exactly when their matter would be heard.
So we took a part of Eric's playbook and use it against people too. That's what you're saying, Mike.
Exactly. but they do it in a more brutal way, because of course when the regime collapsed, there were over 4,000 Grenadians that was in Richmond Hill prison without a trial, without a charge, without a trial.
Mike, Richmond Hill doesn't have that capacity, so I don't know how you work that.
Well, you had, I don't know if you had them in Hope Vale or whatever. You maybe had them in the yard.
You say
no. In addition to the Rastamen,
so I don't know
in addition to the Rastamen that you had in Hopeville, you had over 4,500 political prisoners under Bishop, and those are facts, and that's well documented. When the United
where you get that fact from, Mike? Where did you get that fact from?
The United States government, when they intervene, and moreover, claims that were paid to people that was wronged by the PRG regime, and those are facts. Those are there.
So let me question this now. The monies, when they say that there was no monies in the account, were there $4 million there, or there was no money there?
No, there was money, because the NIS.
Nabati, sorry. Yeah. Roberts might have a different perspective look on that. Were there money there, or were there no money there? Because you was on the other side of this.
When you the government of Grenada runs on, I think, if I remember the Grenada politics, Grenada finance processes. It has a consolidated fund, and it has an expense fund that it pays. Don't hold me to that because I forgot what it's all about. Now, when a government takes power and says, well, there's no money in the coffers, it means that it does not have money to do the day-to-day operation of in the government. Now, when Mike talks about the Provident Fund, I know about the Provident Fund because I wasn't part of the government. No, the money in the Provident Fund is not the same money you can use to pay civil servants, etc., etc. You can't use that. So when the government says, well, there's no money in the treasury, doesn't mean that the treasury is empty like a bare cupboard. There's money there, but just not in the kind of quality, the quantity that allows the government to operate day to day.
Right. So when the history is written and people say when Gary left there was zero money in the treasury, that wasn't entirely true.
Well, politics is a lot about hyperbole. So people may say something.
Mike, don't dance around the thing like that, no, man.
No,
We're talking about the Provident Fund. The PRG established the NIS, and when the NIS was established, $4 million immediately went into it.
Well,
and that money came from the Provident Fund.
I don't have any information on that.
All right. Well, you check the NIS. Check the NIS charter.
I know about the NIS, but I can't speak to the question of if the money in the Provident Fund was taken to fund the NIS.
No, it didn't. It was not the fund. It was transferred to the NIS.
Well, it's the same thing,
right?
If they transfer it out of one place or something is to fund it, obviously.
So it's good that we have a historical understanding of it because you guys sit on different sides of it. Now, the next thing I want to find out is the Mongoose gang and what Bishop then set up as the PR. What was the force? What was the military force? Michael? Batiste?
People's Revolutionary Army.
PRG. The PRG.
PRA,
sorry. Was the PRA equally brutal to the Mongoose gang after it was established and set up?
Well, most of the Mongoose gang on the morning of the revolution, I arrested them. That's true. Willie, Pramin, River Road, Dudley, the whole group of them.
You personally?
Yes. With a team from I led a team that picked up a lot of them on we knew where they were living. And nobody had a hair on them guys' head. Nobody. They were arrested. Yes, they were put in prison, and we can debate the question of the legality, right and wrong, because we were operating. Remember, we had suspended the Constitution in terms of the law, so we governed and ruled under people's laws, which is what revolution does. But if you ask any surviving relative of anyone of the Mongoose gang if they were treated badly, I'm not saying 100% that people didn't. Some exuberant person or who said people who felt that it's my time now and I want to do revenge. There's that, and there's any system they're going to be those sort of bad actors. But as a policy, I can tell you what Maurice Bishop said to me. Maurice said to me in the morning, nobody must harm them. Yeah, I mean. It wasn't a question that you pick up people and everybody is just doing a revenge act and so forth. Were there excesses by people who used the cover and the revolution as a process to do bad things? Yes, you get that in any sort of action. So I'm not going to stay here and deny that there were instances of brutality, of violence.
There was reported instances of torture as well.
Mm-hmm.
There was reported instances of sporadic torture, whether in the prison or people who would just be termed as counter. You just have to say that person on the road they are counter, and they will be immediately arrested.
And where I come from, every time the revolution arrested people for things that were against the people and the revolution, it was justifiable. What after the revolution, I think it must have been about a month or 2 months after, we arrested a set of people who wanted to overthrow the revolution. I went into the room where they were caught making the Molotov cocktail. They were making it, and nobody got shot. Nobody was beaten up or anything. We arrested them without incident. They didn't know we were caught, that we knew that was a situation. But in other cases, I could only talk about people who were under my command, and what we did. Were there other areas where other commanders in the field, in different parts of the country, allow certain things to happen, like violence and other things to happen? Possibly. I'm not going to doubt that. But by and large, in the main, the Grenada Revolution was in fact a peaceful revolution. Mm-hmm. Did we do, as a revolution, were we intolerant to other people's views that ran counter to our views as leaders and members of the revolution? Yes. And that intolerance sparked arrogance, it sparked bad behavior, but that was not the defining or the general feature of the Grenada Revolution. I could see that without fear of contradiction.
Right. But Baptiste, do you think that the Mongo's gang was equally as brutal or more brutal?
Oh, never, not at all. I mean, yes, the Mongo's gang, they were out of order in most cases. But let's talk about the history of the Mongo's gang, because, you know, it is something that is internationally known, and sometimes it acts as the face of the GLP regime and the reason for the overthrow. The Mongo's gang simply started by the Ministry of Health through trying to eradicate Mongols to better control, and they picked up this a group of men, young men, who in most cases were unemployed. Their job was to go out in the field, catch the Mongols, bring the tail, and they got paid. That's how the Mongols gang started. It was a government program that they employed unemployed people. But let's look at the two groups. The Mongols gang may have beaten up people, and yes, they did a lot of things that was wrong, and it should have been condemned then and now. They did not arrest anybody. There were no political prisoners. There were no political prisoners under the GLP. There were instances where there were activities and sometimes clashes between the supporters of Bishop and the supporters of the GLP that resulted in violence. Again, that too have to be condemned, but it was initiated on the part of, in most cases, the supporters of Bishop, because they were hell-bent on taking over a country. Because you've asked the question earlier in the popularity between the two men. There is no way in our Grenada that Maurice Bishop could have defeated Eric Gary in an elections. That just couldn't happen. You see, Maurice Bishop and his followers represented the classes, the upper class. Eric Gary represented the working class people. Grenada being what it is at the time, the majority of the people in Grenada at that time, the electorate at that time, gave support to the GLP and Eric Gary, because after all, their programs were progressive. They brought in investors, serious investors, and SGU is one of them. They had land for the landless program. Agriculture, the agriculture contribution to the GDP at the time was 69%. So they laid the groundwork for the agro processing facilities that, oh my.
Now, we can still hear you, Michael.
You can hear me. Yes, yeah. They laid the groundwork for the agro processing facilities that were started by Bishop later on, which was something good. We had food security, and we had pride and nationalism among our people. We had what we call the partner. We had Maroon. We had community workers. We had our education system was superb. We were at the top of the line in the Caribbean. You had guys like Forbes Bonham, Eugenia Charles, and so many of the regional and Compton. They all came to school to Grenada at a time, though we did not have as much secondary schools, and at the time secondary schools was a privilege. But under that government, they made sure that the curriculum that was in the secondary school were brought in the primary school, and as such, you find primary school children graduating from primary school used to go and work as teachers, and later on they became principals in some of our education facilities around the country.
Someone asked this question. I'm going to throw it out there before we move on to the next segment, because we're kind of slow on time. If Maurice Bishop was such a prominent, popular figure in the Grenadian community, why couldn't he win a general election at the poll? Michael, what do you think? Batiste.
Which Michael?
Sorry, Vincent. Robert.
Robert.
Have all the Michaels in my head.
There are a couple of things I'd like to correct from my learned friend. Under Gary, Grenada was not a utopian society. So let me just put that out there. There was a lot of issues. I remember very clearly, I mean, Mike is not going to remember that civil servants' pay used to be going in 2 months, a month and a half. This government that he talks about, so financially sound with the best people, could not manage its budget. That's the first thing. We had a healthcare situation that was a nightmare, with rats eating people's toes in the hospital and every other problem imaginable around health. And to posit Gary, when Gary started in 51, yes, he may have been a member of the people, the working class, the rural working class in the countryside. But people like King Sugar and King Rice, who had monopoly over prices of food staples that came into the country, were under him. He created what I like to call the black bourgeoisie, the local black bourgeoisie, because he was spurned by the plantocrats and the other business people in the cities. So he created his own group of people. Now, when you speak about the Mongoose gang, never arrest anybody. The Mongoose gang was one part of the grenade of the coercion apparatus of the Gary government. There was the VIUPP, voluntary something, whatever they call it. All you need to do to understand that period is to go online and download the Duffus report of lawlessness. The New Jewry movement didn't spawn an innocent Belma. The New Jewry movement didn't spawn a lot of the bad actors that did, with people like police officers that flush people's head down the toilet and so forth. So there's a lot to go around. I didn't want to go down this road, nor do I want to say, because I have to get off in a little while. But we have to face reality. That's part of our history. Was it a great part of our history? Answer is no. Did NJM, and NJM, here Mike talks about NJM is a party of people in the tongue and the upper class. That is so very universal. That is not fair. The NJM is a coming together of two political parties. The Joint Endeavor for Welfare Liberation was born in the in the peasant movement out of St. David's. Unison Whiteman, Teddy Victor, Sebastian Peters, and others, they could never be considered the elites of the tongue. It was a coming together, because this in the tongue, the party led by Maurice Bishop, MAPP, could not in any way take power. Gary was way too strong. by itself, the New Jewel could not take power. They came together and formed the New Jewel movement, which was a merger of both sections of Grenadian community. So you had a lot of people from the rural working class, and you had a lot of people from the town, the stevedore movement, the longshoremen on the pier, etc. Those are the people who came together. So to posit that the NGM, in contrast to the GULP, was not a people's party, but it was simply just representative of the elite in town, is patently wrong.
All right, we have a caller on the line, and then we're gonna.
Julia, I'm gonna have to go too, eh?
Okay, I know you have to go. Okay, we have a caller on the line. Let's take the caller. We get some last words on the significance of today, and then you could go, and then we resume the second part.
Yeah.
Caller, your live.
I want to ask Michael Roberts a question before he leaves. Mr. Roberts, this is Mr. Elimus Gilbert here, your good friend.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, and thanks for all the help over the years, and special good afternoon to Mr. Baptiste too. I was waiting for all you to reach that part of the program. Yes, but I find all you're saying a little long, so I go ask the question. Over the years, I look at interviews with Selwyn Strand and others who said they never give no orders to execute Bishop and others. I'm not saying they did. I just asking a simple question. If the decision was took by some faction of the army, right? I don't want to call names to protect junior program. But if the army did that, we had about 5 days after Maurice died before the invasion, 5 or 4 days roughly. How come no one arrest them soldiers? How come no one say, well, we never sent all you and do that? Why all you kill Maurice? Just answer that for me, please, Mr. Robert. A lot of people ask me that question. And I'm a survivor of October 19 because I was there. All right, thank you.
Let me do a process of elimination to tell you what it is. And I'm going to tell you my personal, not just my recollection, my personal involvement. All right. I came from Russia in June of 1983. I went to Cuba, came back from Cuba in August of 1983, by which time the party was already populating and there were all issues about what happened in the party. It was not about the government, it was not about Maurice, it wasn't about the PRG. As a matter of fact, the New Jewel movement wanted to go back to the situation when they had two joint coordinating secretaries to share the work. In this case, it would have been Maurice and Bernard Coup. All right, fast forward, everybody in the party, 600 and whatever members of us, agreed. One person abstained, Zaire Louison, abstained. Only person abstained. I was sitting right behind Maurice. And he got up and said, he agrees in principle with everything else. He just wants to have a couple of days to see how we can operationalize that system now that we are in power. His exact words. All right. Fast forward to the question, to the issue of putting him under house arrest. That, in hindsight, was a grave mistake. Okay. After all of that happened, on the day that he was murdered, and I'm not using the word guardedly, I'm saying it was murder. Let's be very clear. I happen to have been, and I could give you my personal recollection. I was assigned to the Guav Western Army, even though I didn't wear uniform for for a number of years. And I came down from that assignment to go to Grenada Beach Hotel because I was a member of the board of directors at Grenada Beach Hotel, and we had to pay workers. So I came down to do that. But I spoke with Maurice the day before. Me and deceased General Austin went to him after I had gone to the other fort, and people like Colonel James, who I reported to, said, you know what, we need to diffuse this. Let's go, let's talk. So since Maurice knew both of us very well, both me and E.J., and I had worked with him so very closely, I went and I spoke with him. And I said to him, you know, this thing could go, so, you know, it could go crazy. You need to really do this in the way that, and we need to go on Radio Grenada and tell the people. And then your guys above my pay grade, people like with Bernard Code, etc., your guys gonna walk out what the chisel is. But if we continue along that boat, at that road, this revolution is dead. That was my words to him. When I came back from Cuba, that's the same thing I said to everybody. If we continue along this road, the revolution is dead. So that was clear. So he told me straight up, you know, he's calling me chicks. The chicks, you know what? I understand what's going on, everything else and so forth. But I need to talk to Dicks, meaning Kendrick Radix. So I said, okay, cool. He asked me for one drink. I told him no, I had a cola and so forth. I left him and H.A. there. And I went back. The next day when I came down, the situation had already started. I was at Butler House when that thing, when the massive Spring Morris, and I went to the Market Square. When the person that told me that the Spring Morris, and I'm talking truth to power right here, is Peter David. We call him Pedro. Pedro came to Butler House, and I said, "What happened, man? What's going on?" And he said to me, "Well, the Master Spring Morris and they're going down in the Market Square." I turned to him, and you could ask him that. I said, "Good man, based on my conversation, the top people in the party and government gonna have a conversation, and this gonna be resolved." And I did not have a problem. But next thing I saw the people on the fort, and my first reaction is if they could breach the fort, they could breach the headquarters of the security, which is in Butler House. So I asked for one of them yellow Janet truck. We took that, and I took out most of all the cabinet. We didn't have no computers and them days. It's filed the cabinet with lock and thing, big iron lock, steel locks on them. So we took all of that. Now the only place to take that for it to be safe is the other fort, where HA and Code and everybody else was up there. So my concern first and foremost was the national security apparatus of the country. Right. So I went up there with that, took that there, put everything on the in a lock and key, and since that was where Colonel Lane headquarters is, that was the headquarters of the permanent battalion, I asked him and my direct commander, Liam James, where we could store it and we could have a guard to guard it outside the door. I was given a room, offload all the stuff, put a lock on it, came back. I had a binoculars around my neck. Also took it. Right next to me, standing outside of there, was H.A. Austin. And he said to me, Cleveland Donald, I don't know if you all guys remember Cleveland. Mike might probably remember Cleveland. Have doing a pig. And they roast it or whatever they do with it. And you want to go. I said, boy, I said, I am not feeling too well. I have the cold and I need to go back home. By which time when I got outside, the two BTRs were outside. I remember Bogman and a couple others, Connie Mears and etc. were around, but I didn't give it any thought as to what was happening. They had not left. But by the time I came out of the room, the BTRs had already left. The two of them had already left. I heard the gunshots and everything else. So let me get to the point of a process of elimination. General Austin could not have given the order. Okay. I was right next to him. They know he could have given the order. I was right next to him. He was right next to me. He could not have given the order. Colonel James couldn't give the order. Colonel James was the national security chief, responsible for intelligence and counterintelligence. He could not command the permanent battalion. That command rested to Colonel Lane. So, by a process of elimination, if H.A. didn't give the order, couldn't. He stood right next to me. Right next to me, talking to me. Colonel James also couldn't have given the order because that's not his calling. That was not his command. The commander of the permanent battalion that defended that is supposed to defend St. George's is Colonel Lane. So let's do the process of elimination straight up.
And to speak a question, why they never arrested the soldier that killed Maurice Bishop?
I don't know why that happened, but the people who the strike force that went on, and it's called a strike force, you know, I'm using the military term, that went to take back the fort and would have taken the fort, had to have been given direct orders, direct command. They had to have given command because the most senior after Connie was shot and killed, the first person that was shot and killed. The most senior commanding officer of the strike force at that point in time was Abdullah. There was nobody else. He was the most senior on the fort at that point in time as a military officer. There was nobody, everybody else was out. I was up at the next fort. Osu was up there, Bobo, all of them was up there. They were not on the other fort. So at that point in time, you have to remember, Callistus Bonard, we call him Abdullah, that's his right name, his command was in Carriacou. But prior to the stress within the party and so forth, he was recalled from Carriacou and brought directly down to Grenada and pick up his position in the permanent battalion. The only person that could have done that would have been Headache. Yeah, nobody else could have done that. That is how he came down. He used to be the commander in Carriacou. So I'm telling you information here from the horse's mouth because I was there. I went to the fort after the shooting. I asked for permission. I asked Colonel Lane. I said, not the Colonel Lane, Colonel James also, if I could go to the fort. Because I saw the flare. When the green flare went up, I asked also. And you could record this straight up because I wanted to go down and testify in Keith Mitchell's Truth and Reconciliation. I asked Colonel Lane, James, what happened on the fort? He said, we have retaken the fort. That's his words to me. I said, are there casualties? He said, yes. I said, Maurice? He said, Maurice has been shot and killed. Yeah, you're hearing it from me. I have no reason to lie. It's about speaking the truth right now. So I went on the fort after that happened. I went to the fort. When I reached on the fort, I saw Josephus Callis. Maybe Mike will remember me from St. David's. He used to be in the fire department. He was putting out the fire caused by the hits from the RPG-7s and so forth. The fire brigade was there putting out the fire in the platform, not at the top where Maurice was shot. So I'm standing up there. You know who was driving me? Cameron Coffey. I think he's a doctor right now in Canada. He's from St. David's. Me and Coffey was the one that was driving me that day. While we were there, they brought down Fitzy Bain. Yes, and they put Fitzy Bain on top of one of the yellow Janet truck. And lying below the Janet truck was Vince Noel. He wasn't dead yet, but you could see he was shot. He was unconscious, and if you ever see what an AK-47 could do to somebody's body, it was really a horrible mess. And I told Callistus Bonard, he came down from the top. After they brought down Fitzy Bain, he came down from the top with his M3 across his chest. And I said to him, how we name Vince needs medical attention. And his response to me is, Vince is done for. doesn't make a sense. Finish him off. I said, what? And he just walked away, you know. And I said, at that point in time, I told Coffee, let us go. My car was up there with me because Coffee was driving me. Before we could leave, they brought down Unison. They brought down Unison and they put them in the back of the big yellow Janet truck. At that point in time, I said, you know, I'm out of here. Let's leave. I don't want to see the rest of this. And we drove down. He picked up his car. I took my own and drive back. So that's my recollection of what is happening. So I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I got to go in a while, guys. I know this is what's on. But I had to answer Specky's question. Yes. And that is the question on the minds of many Grenadians. Who could have given the order? By a process of elimination. I told you, for example, I hear many people talk about, you know, Bernard Coup did this. Bernard Coup could not give me an instruction that I was bound to obey. He's a civilian. The finance minister couldn't tell me anything. Or any soldier, any young soldier around. He might try, and a younger soldier around inexperienced would say, okay, I'll do what you tell me. But the people that could have given those commands, the chain of command on that day, October 19th, I have given it to you. At the top of the food chain, H.A. Austin. After him would be Ewart Lane. After him would be also Colonel Liam James. Liam James, responsible for intelligence and counterintelligence. I reported to him directly. The Headache Lane, commander of the permanent battalion, and the headquarters of the permanent battalion was that food where it was. So all the BTR, armored personnel carriers, when you hear me say BTR, I mean armored personnel vehicles and so forth, came under the command of the permanent battalion. So the only person, by a process of elimination, who could have commanded any one of the troops that went onto the fort and what they did afterwards have to be that colonel. I happen to be standing, as I said, right next to H.A. And if he had given the order, I would have heard. I didn't think of that there.
Yeah.
Could I go now, gentlemen?
Yes. Let me just say this, guys, that this is going to be a part 2. We have to do a part 2. We couldn't do all of it in one program. I don't know if you could come back at a later date, probably by the 20th, and hash that again. Because there's a lot that Baptiste wants to say, and I know, Mike, there's a lot more that you could say as well. So let's resume this conversation on a part 2 on the 25th.
I want to really thank you for giving me this opportunity. I like the debate with the other Mike. We don't let anybody go away from this program believing that we are sworn enemies. As a matter of fact, we more than karaoke partners. So we do all that thing together. So, and we have this kind of conversation, this heated conversation all the time. Yes. Very, very much in the framework that you see there. So Junior, I want to thank you for giving me this thing, but because I have to go and do something right now.
I understand. Thank you so much for appreciation.
Yes, man.
Baptiste, I know there's a lot that you need to say as well, but we're going to resume this conversation on the 25th.
Well, it would be unfair for me to say it in Mike's absence. So I think,
Yeah, so let's do that on the 25th when we conduct a part 2 of this program.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Mike. We appreciate it.
Yes, man.
Guys, and we thank you for joining us. This is part 1. There are so much things that need to be said, but time constraint, Michael Roberts had to leave, and I wanted that conversation. And we also going to be joined, guys, because we're going to be talking about what the Thanksgiving. We're going to speak about, there's one particular U.S. Air Marshal that was in Grenada, that flew in, that jumped off the helicopter. He's going to join us in part 2 of this discussion as well. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll leave you with this video that was shot 5 years ago. It's a young man that got shot and he lost his arm on October 19th. Check that video out. It was posted earlier, but I want to play it back for everyone to see, and join us on the 25th for part 2 of this program. Check it out.
My name is Alexis Simon. I'm actually from Buds Group St. Andrews. Having lost my left hand on the 4th October 19th, 1983, as a result of the massacre that took place back down in 1983 on the 4th of August. Of course, we all knew that Prime Minister Maurice Bishop was executed along with his cabinet ministers, some of his cabinet ministers, along with numerous Grenadians and other school children that was injured. Some of them passed away, died actually that day. And after 33 years right now, I am struggling right now to get hold of a new prosthetic hand. This is it. This is it right now, and I can tell you, I'm really trying. It's been 33 years. This year is coming, and one would have thought that the state would have been more sympathetic to persons like me, because as a result of being a minor, having lost that during this crisis. And so it is rather unfortunate too that, you know, someone like me being sent home after 15 years working with the state and with nothing, very little to show for it, you know. And so this is my plea, and I'm so hopeful that the viewers outside who will be viewing this will be sympathetic to my cause. Of course, that prosthetic hand is going to assist me greatly. I do have one already right now, but as a result, right now it's over 21 years old, probably more than that, and I'm really trying to get hold of a new prosthetic hand. I am presently unemployed, having been unemployed for the past 9 years. I was working with the state of Ministry of Communication and Works. Back then, started working in 1985. After some 15 years, I am home now, being sent home in 2000, and being physically challenged. It is really difficult to find jobs on the island too as well, and so that it has put a pressure on me in trying to get hold of this prosthetic hand. I do not have a U.S. visa right now, but I'm trying to get hold of one once any company wants me to come up, or if they wish to send. Of course, they normally take measurements and all these other things in the past. So I do know that they might require me to come up to the United States. I have no problems with that. Even if they want to send it down for me, well, of course, sending it down wouldn't make much sense because they would have to take measurements. But yes, this is my story, this is my plight. I'm really trying to get hold of this prosthetic hand. As a result of losing my hand on the 4th October 19th, of course, I was just 17 years old, being a minor. Of course, I was also part of the demonstration that freed Maurice. I was part of the demonstration, yes, that freed Maurice. I was 17 years old at the time. What I remembered, I remember when Maurice got freed with the crowd. Of course, it's been 33 long years now, so my memories, but I remember Maurice being freed by the crowd. I remember coming down Locust Street. I remember going up on the fort, and of course, Maurice then went into the building. There were lots of people, lots of soldiers on the fort that they didn't fire at us. However, they were firing where Maurice and him was placed under house arrest, firing that went up into the air. There was firing bullets into the air. I'm not sure if that was to get us to vacate the compound. However, Maurice was freed, and we then went down Locust Street. I can't remember if he was placed in the car first or if he was placed in the truck, but I know that he was self-driven for a period of time. Up and going on the 4th, Maurice and I went inside of the building together with his ministers and other people, other government officials. While inside of the building, the armored cars and them came up. I didn't saw the armored cars and them coming up, and of course the armored cars and them, I guess as soon as they started firing, because although I'm actually facing, just like how I'm facing you in front of the camera now, I got shot from behind, so I didn't see the armored cars and them come up. Maybe if I did, I might have panicked. But I didn't see the armored cars and them, and as soon as I heard the shots in them, I started lay down inside of the truck. I was in a government truck, a truck that was parked right at the platform on the 4th. And of course the truck had lots of people on it. Presently I know of a gentleman who was there. He got shot on the truck as well. But he's actually working right now. But thank God he didn't lose any members of his body, he just got a bullet. But my hand was blown out. And I remained there up until they started shouting, "All who are alive, put up your hands in the air." And that's when I realized that my left hand was blown out. I couldn't panic. All I did at the time was to jump on the truck from where I was. And of course I fell to the ground because of the amount of blood that I would have lost. And somebody picked me up and brought me to the hospital.
Advertise with us and reach millions daily, weekly, monthly. Yeah, over 10 million per month. It pays to advertise with us. Reach more and let us send your business viral. Advertise with us and reach more.
For a limited time, the NLA has dropped all of the 2x balls from the multi-X draw. This means that you, our valuable players, have greater chances of multiplying your winnings up to 5 times more in our 2x drop promotion. Yay! And that's not all. As an additional bonus, there will be fewer free play or FP balls to draw from too. Now you have more reasons to add multi-X to your playway bets. So, value your dreams, win your way, and multiply your winnings up to 5 times more in the NLA's 2x Dropped promotion. Promo runs until Friday, 20th October, 2023. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
The government of Grenada, through the Ministry of Finance, is continuing the rollout of its tax amnesty initiative. The amnesty provides 100% waiver of all interest and penalties on all outstanding balances up to the end of December 2021. All taxpayers with outstanding tax balances and outstanding returns to file are encouraged to take advantage of this amnesty. All tax types administered by the division are eligible for tax amnesty. For further information on the tax amnesty, please contact the Inland Revenue Division at 435-6945 or 435-6946. Email tpshelpdesk@ird.gov.gd or visit our website ird.gd. Amnesty ends December 31st.
As we celebrate 50 years of independence,
I love my Grenada.
Made in Grenada presents the celebration of 50 years of Calypso.
Open be a beautiful tonight, honey.
One stage.
No, not so fast.
One show.
Music holding me, controlling.
Grenada's best Calypsonians performing Grenada's greatest hits.
Don't take it out.
Sunday, February 11th. Tournament 2024 at 6 p.m. sharp. Grenada National Stadium. More information coming soon.
When the DJ play Peter Humphrey, she raise her hand and she tell me, making no place me.
Now, get ready to conquer the road with Zion Driving Instructors, conveniently located at 1782 Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We are your ticket to driving success. We are known for and specialize in the best rates for driving classes, ensuring you reach your driving goals affordably and efficiently. Our expert instructors offer personalized one-on-one training, making you a confident and skilled driver. Plus, we offer convenient 5-hour classes and various packages deal to give you even more value. Ready to take the wheel? Call us today at 718-374-5678. That's 718-374-5678. Or visit ZionDrivingInstructors.com. That's ZionDrivingInstructors.com. Zion Driving Instructors, your journey to the open road starts here. Contact us and make your driving dreams a reality. Mention this ad and get a 5% off selected package.
The Ministry of Tourism and Economic Development and the Grenada Tourism Authority extend a warm welcome to visitors and returning nationals visiting for Carnival and summer vacation. We do hope you enjoy your stay with us, and we invite you to return with friends and family to celebrate our 50th anniversary of independence on 7th February 2024. Tourism is my business, your business, our business.
I want you folks to play these 3 games from the NLA. Daily pick 3 cash flow and play with. You will be supporting sports and culture, nation building and our future. So go out and play, folks, make it a must. You will see what the National Lottery is doing for us. When you play pick 3 cash flow and play with, the NLA will support you all the way.
Starting September 30th, Monday to Friday, these 3 games will be drawn mid-morning, 9:45 a.m., midday, 12:45 p.m., and evenings, 7:45 p.m. The National Lotteries, supporting sports, culture, and nation building.
Sunday money.